Ride along each week as we share proven strategies to strengthen your business, energize your team, and create the business success you've been dreaming about. And now, here's your host, Rich Allen.
How are your employees feeling about their fellow team members and their future with your company? Welcome to the Ultimate Business Tune-Up Podcast, where our one and only goal is to help you tune up your business so you can have the long-lasting success and fulfillment that comes from owning a solid, profitable, and sustainable business. Each week we dive deep into a single topic related to improving your business, improving your team engagement, or improving your relationship with your customers. Last week we discussed a recent ruling by the Federal Trade Commission, otherwise known as the FTC, that they want to ban all non-compete clauses issued by companies to their employees. I shared that it's not uncommon for business owners to use non-compete clauses, especially with employees who have unique skills or those who fill senior positions within the company. And while this FTC ruling doesn't go into effect for 120 days or so, and it's already being met with cries of foul and legal claims that suggest it's an overreach, I've heard from many business owners who are not happy about the new ruling. But rather than just complain or get frustrated about it, I'm recommending that every business owner use this warning shot as a reason to double down on creating a work environment that supports and builds a radically engaged team. Last week, I shared what I believe are the Gear 1 or Level 1 statements that define how an individual employee feels about their personal position in the business. From my research, I believe there are 12 statements that employees are asking themselves and constantly assessing about their current position in any company that we as business owners must understand and address if we want them to be 100% radically engaged in their role. If you missed last week's podcast episode, I'm going to strongly suggest that you go back and listen to that one to get those 12 statements firmly locked into your brain. If you don't, you'll likely never get your team members to give you their full effort and commitment. Now, this week, I want to dive deeper into Level 2, or as I call it, Gear 2, statements that every employee is asking and assessing on a daily basis. These Gear 2 statements are related to their supervisor and managers, the leadership of the business, and to their future with the business. Very much like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, every employee has some base level requirements that must be met in order for them to level up to focus on a life of more significance. Last week, we covered these base level needs as the Gear 1 statements. Only when your team members feel good about these Gear 1 statements will they turn their focus and attention to higher gears. This next higher gear is Gear 2, my supervisor, leaders, and my future. Like in Gear 1, I've identified 12 statements that your employees are going to rate in their heads, if not verbally, to determine whether their current employer is the right fit for them as a team member on your team. Let's cover each of these 12 statements today and talk briefly about why they're so important to employee satisfaction and engagement. As I walk through these 12 statements, think about how well you and your company are doing in these areas and make note of those where you could use some improvement or some help. Statement number 1 is, I have confidence in and respect for the leaders of our business. This is perhaps the most critical of the 12 statements because we already know that employees don't quit their jobs, they quit their bosses. Unless you have supervisors and leaders who recognize their role in motivating, inspiring, mentoring, and removing barriers for your team members, they'll default to micromanaging, demanding, finding fault, and issuing punishments as their way of managing. This is not leadership. And your individual contributors are assessing this every day. Trust me on this one. Statement number 2 is, I see our leaders modeling the actions and behaviors they ask of me. If you think about this statement for a minute, you'd probably agree with me that in far too many cases, supervisors and leaders ask and require actions and behaviors of their subordinates that they themselves would not and do not follow. It's sad but true. I see it all the time. The double standard is obvious. Just know that when this happens, your employees are registering it as something that will drive them away, seeking a company that practices what they preach. Statement number 3 is, I get recognized when I go above and beyond my regular job responsibilities. When we as business owners have a team member who is particularly talented or motivated, our first thought is to give them everything we can. It's so hard to find people who you can delegate work to and know with certainty that it's going to be done well, that when we find it, we pour it on. Sound familiar? I'll bet it does. But what that requires of us is to go out of our way to recognize and reward the individuals who do step up. A quick example. I was talking with a senior person at a client's company recently, and as we discussed their process to review pay levels and award pay increases, he mentioned to me that everyone in the business had received an annual pay increase except him. Yet he was the one who initiated the process, managed the process, and had the tough discussions with each employee. How do you think he was feeling about his worth and value to the owners? We must recognize those who go above and beyond. Statement number 4 is, I have leaders who are genuinely interested in my personal well-being, including that of my family, if I have a family. We can all agree that if we show interest in a person personally, their interests, their talents, their family, and their hobbies, they will naturally be more interested and connected to us on a personal level. So before you hide behind the idea that you've got too many employees to know all of them and their families, just know that if you make this a priority, you'll find ways to get to know and genuinely care about your team members. This is critically important if you want team members who will go into battle with you. Statement number 5 is, I understand where the company is going in the future. Everyone wants to be on the bus that's going to a destination they desire. However, far too many business owners never tell their employees where they're going. They're just riding the bus, not sure of the destination. You wouldn't do that to your family over spring break, so don't do that to your team members either. Tell them where you're heading with the company and the business. And if you really want to get their attention and buy-in, make it a compelling destination. Statement number 6 is, I can articulate what sets our company apart from our competitors. No one wants to work for a company that's average. It's a bit like kissing your sister, not something you ever want to do. Team members want to know that they're working for the best in their industry. So if you're not the best, that's your number 1 assignment. And while you're working on becoming number 1 in some specific area of focus, tell your team that's your focus. They'll help you make it a reality, and it will fire them up too. Statement number 7 is, I know what future roles may be available for me. I'd venture to say that 99% of individuals are not currently in the role they aspire or dream about being in. Most everyone wants to move up and make progress. Our job as the business owner is to make it very clear what opportunities lie ahead for each person on our team. Don't miss this one. If you're not letting them know what bigger, better positions are out there for them, your competition is. Statement number 8 is, I can envision being an important team member in this business for years into the future. I've found that when I ask many team members directly, do you plan to be here for the long term? Their response is often something like, I'm not sure, or probably not, or it depends. I believe many of these responses are coming because the business owner hasn't made it clear and obvious that they want them to be there for the long term. This one doesn't take much effort. We just need to be willing to tell people directly that we want and need them to be with us for years to come. I had one business owner who was so bold as to ask each new employee if they would commit to 5 years with the company if he would do the same. The results were powerful. Perhaps you should consider something similar. Statement number 9 is, I have positive and supportive team members who work together to solve difficult challenges. Having supportive and helpful team members is critical to the success of any business, which is why I'm always surprised when a business owner will allow team members to be anything less than positive and helpful. I'm sure you've been in situations where someone on the team is bitter, angry, or just downright mean. They don't help. They only focus on the work they've been given, never asking others if they need a hand or some help. If you've got those kinds of folks on your team, you should show them the door tomorrow. The result will be that your best employees will double down on their efforts and commitments to your benefit. Statement number 10 is, I see my team members and leaders holding each other accountable to live out our culture and standards. This should be a no-brainer, but far too often we leave the business of holding people accountable to supervisors and managers. To be honest, when supervisors and managers hold people accountable, it looks more like micromanaging. This always works better when the team is holding one another to the standards and behaviors you expect. Just give this one a try and you'll be convinced right away. Statement number 11 is, I can rely on my team members to step up and help when I'm overworked or overwhelmed. The whole idea of having a team is that the work is not over until everyone is done. If that's not how it works, then you just have a group of people each doing their own thing. It's not a team. It'd be like the guys in the bullpen heading to the showers in the 7th inning because they're not in the game. No, they stay and support those on the field until the last out is reached. It's a powerful way to run your business, too. And lastly, statement number 12 is, I enjoy being with and spending time with my coworkers. Your team members spend a lot of time working in your business. That means they probably spend as much time with their team members as they do with their family, and some even more. And if you want your team members to stay and be enthusiastic about working for you, then you'll encourage and support activities that will allow them to become friends as well as coworkers. Don't be fooled by the notion that work must be separate from fun. It's simply not true, and certainly not what your team members are looking for. So there you have it. 12 statements that your employees are asking themselves about whether they respect their supervisors, are in alignment with their team members, and can see themselves being there for the long term. I encourage you to review these 12 statements, take them seriously, and do whatever is necessary to make your employees respond to each of these with a resounding absolutely yes. Anything less than that, and they're going to be looking elsewhere for a place that fits them better. If you need some help thinking this through for your business, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. I'd be glad to walk you through some ideas that would make the level 2 or gear 2 statements not only satisfying for your team, but better yet, get them to be enthusiastic about staying with you for many years to come. Now, before we go, 2 quick asks. Share this podcast with your fellow business owners. I'm trying to get these free business tips to as many business owners as possible. I want every business owner to be successful, and this is my gift to you and to them. Thanks for passing this along. And lastly, please leave a review on this podcast. The more thumbs up this podcast gets, the more it will be found when someone's stuck or struggling and looking for advice. Your review can help make this happen. Thanks for joining me today. Be sure to tune in next week when we're going to discuss Team Engagement Level 3. You won't want to miss it. Meanwhile, if you have a question, suggestion, or would simply like to connect, shoot me an email at rich@tourtoprofit.com. Now go make it a great week, and whatever you do, ride hard.
Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Business Tune-Up. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, find more resources at tourtoprofit.com and connect with Rich by sending a message to rich@tourtoprofit.com. Until next time, ride hard.